Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the April 3rd meeting of the City of Vista Planning Commission. Would you all join us and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And Commissioner Carroll, would you lead us, please?
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Turley, would you take the roll, please?
I would like the record to show that all commissioners and both student commissioners are present.
Very good. Commissioners, before you are the minutes from the March 20th meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes? If not, could I hear a motion to approve? Commissioner Carroll.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Kramer.
I second the motion.
Very good. Please vote. The minutes pass on a 6-1 vote with Chairman Rossler abstaining. I was absent at the last meeting, and I want to thank Vice Chair Looney for running the meeting for us. So we'll move on now to agenda changes. Ms. Chow, any changes to the agenda?
Good evening, Chairman. No changes. Thank you.
Very good. The next item on our agenda is oral communications. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the Commission on items that are not on the agenda. We have 3 minutes. You will have 3 minutes. And I do have a speaker slip from Laura Gonzalez. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Laura Gonzalez, and I live on Cananea Street. So I wanted to speak on the construction site proposed for the North Santa Fe Paseo apartments. I wanted to request information on whether or not they are doing research on the wildlife and how it's affecting the neighboring area. I also wanted to ask about how the demographic study was done to choose that lot for the apartment complex, seeing as the design really contrasts a lot of the existing residence apartments and homes. So I wanted to speak on that.
Very good. We can't answer those questions tonight because that item is not on our agenda. But Mr. Connolly, who's handling that project for staff?
So that is my project, actually. There's an environmental impact report that's been prepared for the project that details a lot of information about the project and its potential impacts, including on wildlife, that's currently out for public review. So I can give you my card and make sure that it gets a copy. There will also be public hearings for that project, just like we're doing tonight for the other projects before the Commission, and you'll have an opportunity to present any concerns at that time.
I would encourage you to get a hold of that environmental impact report. It contains a wide range of information specifically addressing the topics that you raised here tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next item on our agenda is our first public hearing for Honda Vista. Mr. Connolly, are you ready for your staff report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and Commissioners. This is a site development plan and tentative parcel map for the Honda project. The project is a 6.8 acre site located at the corner of Vista Village and West Vista Way. The proposal includes a showroom and service building that would be a total of 46,520 square feet, as well as a separate car wash building of a little over 1,400 square feet, parking, landscaping, and site improvements. The property is shown here on the overhead. It includes seven separate parcels stretching along the north side of West Vista Way, west of Vista Village Drive, between blocks of Plymouth and Valencia. Surrounding land uses include single-family residential to the north, commercial, retail, and restaurant uses to the east, the North County Ford dealership to the south, and St. Francis Catholic Church to the west. The property is currently being under demolition, which I'll cover in a later slide. The general plan land use designation on the left is mixed use. Commercial uses and residential uses are both permitted. The zoning is within the downtown specific plan on the right in the West Gateway planning area. Again, a mix of commercial and residential uses permitted. These are some pictures of the site from this morning. The demolition of the 4 remaining commercial structures is currently underway. Permits were issued for that in March. Surface improvements will be removed following demolition, including all of the curb, gutter, and asphalt improvements on the property, and rough grading of the site would be subject to approval of the site development plan and tentative map that's before you this evening. There is a capital improvement project that's currently underway with the city as well. This is at the corner of Vista Village and West Vista Way, the northwest corner that's shown in the yellow here. It's kind of hard to see on the overhead, I apologize. The project vacates the free right turn lane that extends from Vista Village Drive onto West Vista Way, as well as the landscaped median that's out in the street, and dedicates that area back to the project site, and includes a dedicated right turn lane on Vista Village Drive to accommodate the traffic that currently uses that free right turn lane. The City Council approved that vacation late last year, and we'll be going to construction in a couple months to close off that portion of the road and dedicate that area back to the project site. So it is included on the project site plans that are before you this evening. This is a copy of the site development plan drawing in the architectural set that's in your packet. It shows the 46,520 square foot showroom and service building, as well as the canopy areas in yellow that are on the right side or the east side of the site. The service area would include 22 bays for service of vehicles through the dealership. The car wash is to the east side of the main building in the rear portion of the lot. The project includes 3 access driveways, one on Valencia, 1 main driveway on West Vista Way, and 1 driveway on Plymouth. There are 121 parking spaces that would accommodate employees, service vehicles, and customers, and the remainder of the lot would primarily be paved and used for vehicle display. Some small landscape median islands are also shown, which I'll cover in the landscape plan. The preliminary grading plan is shown here. It's fairly busy. There are quite a bit of utility improvements, including moving some sewer lines at the cost of the utility district, relocating some water facilities, meters, et cetera, associated with the city's capital improvement project at the corner. There are drainage improvements on the site, including capturing all of the runoff from the development of the property and treating that through a series of basins and permeable concrete. We had the truck turning movement shown on the plan as well to show that vehicles can be delivered onto the site without having to stage in the public right-of-way. There's also a tentative parcel map included in your packet, which primarily is just to consolidate the existing 7 parcels into 1 lot. These are the architectural elevations for the project. On the top is the south elevation, which would face West Vista Way, the primary elevation for the site. On the lower portion of the slide is the Plymouth Drive, or the east elevation. On the upper slide here is the west elevation facing Valencia, and on the lower portion is the north elevation, which would face the back portion of the lot or the residential properties. The car wash is also shown at the bottom. The floor plan for the main showroom and service building is shown here. Would include a showroom area in the front, a number of offices, a parts department, as well as the service bays in the back, a number of meeting rooms as well. The car wash is also shown on the right, which would just be a drive-through car wash facility, and an emergency generator would be in an adjacent room housing equipment. The second floor plan shows office space and meeting rooms and some open areas to the showroom below. The roof plan shows the extent of the building as well as the canopies surrounding the building that would provide service areas, and identifies the location of the HVAC units on the roof and the screening that would be located around those units. Some architectural elevations showing the front, looking from the southwest and from the southeast. And there are some renderings in your packet too. These are all 3D models that were included in the Planning Commission's set of plans. This is looking at the rear and the east side. The landscape plan is also included in your packet. It shows extensive landscaping along the perimeter, the northern perimeter of the site to screen the property from the residential uses adjacent, as well as some palm trees and ground cover along the front side, street side of the property. The landscape plan does deviate from the parking lot and street tree standards that we would normally impose for commercial uses, I think for the obvious reason. It's explained in the staff report. Based on the use and the visibility that's required through the site, the staff supports that. There is a pylon sign proposed at the corner of West Vista Way and Vista Village. It would be a 30-foot high sign that's shown here. That's also included in your packet, 10 feet in width. A fairly contemporary design to match the dealership proposed. There's also wall signs that are shown on the building in all of the elevations, which would be subject to the planning staff's approval following the Planning Commission's consideration tonight. So the application complies with the general plan land use designation, as well as policies and goals in our general plan supporting redevelopment of older commercial properties and land uses which generate tax revenue for the city. The application complies with the downtown specific plan standards related to land use, parking, setbacks, building height, architecture, and site design, and there is a requested deviation from the landscape standards that I mentioned. There's a noise technical report that's been prepared for the project, which is included in your packet. It indicates that the project would comply with the applicable property line noise standards along the residential interface on the north side of the site, with the 6-foot proposed screen wall that would extend along the northerly edge of the project. There's also a photometric analysis that was provided to staff indicating what the light levels would be. Our code requires that light levels may not exceed 0.25 foot candle on any adjacent property, and their photometric plan shows that they're well below that at all of the adjacent properties with the landscaping, screen walls, and shields that are proposed in the photometric plan. With that, staff is recommending approval of the site development plan and tentative parcel map, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions of staff? Commissioner Garrison?
Mr. Connolly, how tall is this building compared to previous buildings there, the entertainment center?
The buildings, the main part of the building is 28 feet. The tower element goes up to about 31 feet. The entertainment center was a 2-story building. I don't know the exact height, but it was somewhere in the 25 to 30 foot high range.
And how about the footprint?
The
building
footprint is
footprint.
larger than the entertainment center footprint, slightly, I believe. I don't know the exact square footage of the entertainment center, but
I was just trying to get a perspective that we're not talking about, bigger building, higher building necessarily.
It is slightly larger.
Slightly higher, slightly bigger, but
slightly
math.
larger footprint, but same height, scale height.
all right, thank you.
Commissioner Jackal?
Thank you. Mr. Conley, so we saw and had explained the landscape plan that shows on the south and east. What about the residences that are, in that area behind this parcel? Is it going to be screened for them?
So the landscape plan is shown here. There's a row of trees that extend along that northerly boundary.
Okay.
That I think are spaced at 5 to 10 feet, so they're fairly tightly spaced. And the intent there was to provide a landscape screening for the neighboring residential properties.
Okay, do you have any idea what the trees are?
Yes. The property applicant's here. He can tell us what they
Okay,
are if you want to
all
allow
right.
him to step up to the...
There's 368 Carolina cherries, and they're 5 foot on center. It'd be
Okay.
really nice screening, yes.
Thank you.
I have more questions about that, so.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Connolly, the 10 by 10 by 30 monument sign, is that consistent with the Ford sign?
The Ford sign's actually, I think, quite a bit higher than that. I think the Ford sign's 50 feet in height, and it's a pole sign, so it's regulated a little differently.
Okay. But this isn't anything more than what Ford?
No.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Garrison.
The big trees that are on the parking lot now, will those remain or will those be cut down?
I'm
We
gonna
have some
defer
rather
that.
large trees that are on the lot
The
now.
applicant, I believe all the trees are going to be removed that are on the property currently.
And second, I noticed that employee parking is at the rear, right below where those single-family residents are. That causes me a lot of concern because you're going to have 30 employees, for instance, first thing in the morning, slamming their doors, turning their horn on to make sure their car door is locked, and it's right literally 10 feet from those houses. Has the applicant, well, maybe this is a better question for him, have you talked to the residents about what you're doing and how that's going to be screened from them? Because that is really close to have 30 cars in the morning slammed right in your bedroom, basically.
Richard?
Maybe I should stay up here. Along the area where the employee parking is, the homes are set back further. We have talked to the neighbors in the areas where we are on the border, and we are in close contact with them, and they're approving every step of our project. We talked to them about lighting and noise and so forth. But in the area where the employees park, there's a driveway in the property, in the buildings are set way back. Plus, we have an additional screening along the property line as well.
Now, is this going to be screening? First of all, the fence around is not chain link fence, correct?
Oh, of course not. No, sir.
And so you're going to put a fence along that northern section where the houses are.
Yes,
So
we're going to.
is that going to block the noise?
And with the fence, we're actually a wall we have a 6-foot wall going along the border. There's an existing wall where you're talking about, and then
Yes.
we're also putting vegetation screening.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Commissioner Looney.
Just a point regarding the landscaping. Mr. Connolly, there's a series of queen palms that line the edge of the street at the perimeter of the property line. Would there be any problems with going to a king palm? Because those queens look really messy after year 3 or 4. And the kings really are just a lot neater tree.
So that's
That would
probably
be,
a good
I would just
question for
have
the
them
applicant.
consider changing that out to a king palm rather than a queen.
I agree with you. I think a queen or king palm looks a lot nicer. The problem is that they self eject the prawns, and what will happen is they hit our cars. So it doesn't work well for customers and our vehicles. I agree. It's a better looking tree, but they eject these large branches and they cause damage or injury.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
All right. Commissioner Garrison.
Do we have studies for the car wash, the sound? And I had a little trouble following that in terms of what the decibel level was at the car wash and what the decibel level would be, let's say, at the street and at the housing units behind there.
So the car wash is included in the noise report. On page 91 of 111, it addresses the assumptions made in terms of what the noise level would be for the actual car wash unit. And then there's a table on page 92 of 111 that details what the frequencies would be and what the noise levels would be from it.
What would the noise level be at the site, at the car wash? This says 65 to 70 dBA.
It says that it assumes 65 dBA at 20 feet. The systems are assumed to operate on 15-minute per hour operating time.
And no problem with employees who are working basically right on the car wash. And exposure all day long to 70 dBA.
So that's a OSHA issue that's the applicant's responsibility, but the car wash operations impact on the adjacent properties is part of our scope, and that's addressed in the noise study. And based on the findings of the noise study with the noise walls, I guess the combination of the retaining wall that they have to build in that area near the car wash and the 6-foot screen wall, that would sufficiently reduce noise from the car wash at the residential property line below the city standard.
All right, thank you.
All right. We'll now open the public hearing, invite Mr. Fischler to come back up and make a presentation, and also Mr. Strump if he's needed. Okay?
Well, good evening. First, I'd like to thank the commissioner, the chairman, and all the commissioners here tonight to take your time out to hear us and allow us to propose this. And I'd like to also thank John Conley and his staff for the superb help in this project. We are excited to be here in Vista. This will be our 5th Honda dealership. Our Honda dealership in Cerritos is the world's largest Honda, and we hope to bring similar success down here to Vista. We think we got a pretty nice looking location here. I think to the question about footprint, I'm going to go back and study. I'm big on numbers, so I'll look at that. Our footprint, I can assure you that it's under the existing combined footprint of the buildings that were there previously. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, in addition to the ones we already have addressed. But I'd just like to thank everyone and tell you how excited we are to be here.
Very good. Welcome to the city.
Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? Don't go away. Commissioner Garrison.
Could you address the parking on both side streets in terms of the employee parking, customer parking? There's a lot of discussion about red curbs. So are we actually reducing the amount of parking on the two, Valencia and Plymouth?
Well,
or are we more restricting it?
There are conditions of approval that restrict parking along West Vista Way, Valencia, and parts of Plymouth, so that, yes, we don't have parking along the frontage. The intent is that all the parking occur on the project site.
And what about the sidewalks on Plymouth?
In terms of...
There are no sidewalks.
Those will be a requirement of the project.
Okay. That's what I understood. I just want to confirm.
Yes, that's correct.
Hang on. Commissioner Kramer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once the project is approved, when are we up and selling Hondas?
We expect to be completed by the end of January. We think we'll, with the help of the city and the weather permitting, we should be in business by the end of January.
Perfect. Thank you.
May I order your Honda now?
Oh, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Okay, I have a couple of questions for you in regard to parking. Condition 7 under the planning department's conditions require you to have 121 spaces, and it's divided up between employee, customer, and service. In looking at the Ford dealer across the street and thinking about Carlsbad Car Country, a lot of on-street parking there. You're going to be able to live with the number of parking spaces that you're being required?
I think we have adequate parking spaces designated on site. We were opposed to parking on the street in front as the Ford does across the street from us. We just don't think it looks right, and it's not safe for somebody to hit, with the traffic volume that you have there. We have two locations, one to the left for customer parking and then to the right for customer parking. And if we outgrow that and we need more, then we just will reduce the number of cars that'll be displayed at that time and add additional parking.
Okay, very good. Concerning your landscaping plan, I went and you've got on page 36, condition 23, again under the landscape, the planning department's conditions, says that you can't prune the trees to make a hedge. In looking at Bob Perry's book, he says that the Catalina cherry will grow to 35 to 40 feet tall and be 20 to 30 feet wide. Your plan proposes 5-gallon trees. How tall are those going to be, and how long to maturity do you think it'll take?
I think they'll get to maybe 20 feet with good growth, good soil. We think that the 5-foot overlap will give a nice barrier in between. But time to maturity, again, depending on growth, and we have nice warm weather here and with adequate, irrigation, we expect that to be, 3 to 5 year growth period.
Okay, all right. And then, Mr. Connolly, could you pull up the architectural elevations of the east side of the building, the one that faces Plymouth? There we go. Can I ask you why the architectural treatment stops halfway down the building? That's where the service area is.
That's correct. It's part of a design of Honda that they have the EFS type stucco look in the front section of the building, and the back section would be split face block painted to match.
Okay, all right.
It does have quite a contrast there. I agree. Yeah, but they'll be painted to match.
It'll match. All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me think about that.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. We do have a speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll be back. Kathy Magana? Did I get that right? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Come in. Name and address for the record, please. Up here.
I'm on Walker Way, 142 Walker Way, directly behind. And I can't wait to look at a big building behind my house. My question it's proposed to have a 6-foot block wall. I wanted to know possibly if they would consider 10-foot.
I think we need to ask Mr. Connolly if the city code would allow a 10-foot wall in this location.
So maximum height of a wall in Vista is 10 feet. If the commission wanted to require that, you could go to that height, but that's the limit.
That's the limit. That's why I was asking about the trees that are going to be planted along the back. They have told us that in 3 to 5 years, they think the trees will be 20 feet high. So that would probably be nicer to look at than a concrete wall. But
Yeah, now I have a nice view of the hills of good old Vista, which I enjoy.
Okay.
Commissioner Garrison answered a lot of my questions pertaining to the residents who live there. Thank you for your questions. And I want to know, I think the stoplights, was that answered also? Are they going to be redirected?
As part of the capital improvement program, all of those things will be taken care of for the new improvements.
Well, a 10-foot fence, that was mostly what I want to ask, if that could be considered.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. That was the only speaker slip that I had. So having no others, we'll open it up to commission discussion. Commissioner Garrison.
Yeah, when the, Mr. Connolly, or the applicant, I guess, when they deliver cars, is there enough turning radius to get into both sides from Plymouth and Valencia without blocking traffic?
That was
That
our
was part of the
traffic
condition, right?
engineers. Yeah, that was the traffic engineer's question, and that was why we had them plot the truck turning movements on an exhibit to show that they could make those turns.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Looney.
I'm excited about it. I think that's the gateway into Vista. We've got the Ford dealership that has been successful. We've got construction going across the street to the east, which will bring a draw of people out of town into our town. And I think this is just another anchor store that works well with Lowe's, with Ford, with Honda, and with some of the things that we're seeing downtown. So I'm excited to see some redevelopment taking place on this high-traffic intersection. So I'm excited about what you've done.
Very good. Commissioner Jackal.
Thank you. I definitely agree with Mr. Looney. I would love our architect and engineer to help me visualize a 10-foot wall. I mean, I can figure out 6-foot walls because I'm a lot less than 6 feet standing there looking at it, but
It's a tall wall.
yeah.
It's going to be concrete. It's very flat. And looking at the grade elevations, it basically creates a fence for the adjacent residential properties. The grades I'm just looking at sheets. That's a grading plan. I don't see the sheet on it, sheet number, but these grades here are at 334. That basically runs along that north property boundary line. Mm-hmm. And we've got another grade that runs about 330. So there is already a couple of feet that it's going to step up. The 10-foot wall, I think would have a negative impact both on the dealership and on the adjacent property owners. That's my opinion.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, but I don't know as much as you do, so.
Are you a football fan?
No.
Oh. The crossbar on the goalpost is 10 feet. The basket on a basketball hoop is
10 feet.
10 feet.
Okay.
So that's generally the height. Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Connolly, I believe you have a slide in the packet that actually shows an aerial view in our packet. It's proposed noise barriers, page 95. What I'm trying to wrap my arms around is the same thing that the other commissioners are, is this 10-foot wall. And I was looking to know which house was 142 Walker Way to see exactly, yes.
142, I believe, or our speaker was this home right here.
She's nodding yes.
So there's a 6-foot wall that'll be right at the PL, but then there's also a 2 to 3 foot retaining wall, which increases in height as you move in this direction. So the combination of the retaining wall and the freestanding wall would be somewhere in the range of 8 to 10 feet along that property line. Yeah. From the floor elevation of the Honda dealership site.
I'm afraid you wouldn't be happy. I think the trees are much better. The 6-foot wall with the trees would be much more to your liking than a 10-foot concrete wall. Thank you. I have no other questions. I will be supporting the project. I think it's the right thing for the right location, and it will help us in many, many ways. Thank you.
Commissioner Garrison?
Mr. Connolly, just a quick clarification. If you're looking toward the back of the property, looks like a fairly new wooden fence back there.
Yes.
Will that be replaced, or is that owned by the property owners?
It may or may not be replaced. There will be a block wall that will be placed at the property line in that location. I'm not sure if that wood fence is on the property line owner's side or right on the PL and may need to be replaced, but that's where the block wall will go.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Commissioner Carroll?
Thank you, Chairman. I see on the sections the CMU block wall, but I haven't found what the finish is of those walls. A stucco painted block or...
So there's no specific condition right now, just it's subject to the city planner's approval. If the planning committee, it would most likely be CMU that would be painted. If the commission wants to stipulate something more decorative, you can certainly do so.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. No other comments here. So personally, I agree with Commissioner Looney. I'm excited for the project. Congratulate the applicant for consolidating in 7 lots in the city, which is not an easy task at all. I was concerned about parking, but that seems to be addressed. I agree that the landscaping with the Catalina cherries is probably going to provide a much nicer view blockage than a 10-foot wall would. And I was glad to hear that the back of the service area on the east elevation was going to be treated the same as the rest of the building, or painted the same. So those answered my concerns on the project. So if there are no other comments, can we have a motion? Commissioner Jackal?
Okay. I move approval of item number P17-0465 as presented. And do you want me to read that whole thing?
No, just say as written.
As written. I would like to suggest a stipulation for stuccoing the wall. That's my motion.
And Commissioner Kramer?
I second the motion, including the stipulation. I was going to add that had Commissioner Jackal not. I think it's the right things to do, especially on the residents' side.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to include approval with the condition for a stucco wall. Commissioner Carroll?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I was just going to chime in on the wall also, but I don't really see the need for the stucco on the dealer side. I think a painted block wall there in the service area is completely fine. It's just if there's a way, stucco or otherwise, I guess the stucco is probably cheaper than slump block or something. But to really enhance that for the neighbors, I just something a little bit beyond the painted block, I think, is appropriate for them, and stucco is probably the cheapest.
Okay. Commissioner Looney?
Coming back to the plaster on the wall, if it's on the dealership side, if the plaster is applied to the neighbor's side, I think that would be fine. But putting plaster on the dealership side, it becomes a waterproof nightmare. There's going to probably be waterproofing behind that wall in any event. But that plaster has a tendency to flake, even with a waterproofing membrane behind it. So I think if we keep it on the neighbor's side, that's fine. But on the dealership side, I think the painted block wall would be fine. And maybe you could do with a flush grout where it doesn't accentuate the grout lines as much. And when you paint that over, they almost disappear, and it almost looks like a flat wall. So that would be my suggestion.
How are the maker of the motion and the second as far as requiring the stucco on the neighbor's side, but the what did you call the grout? Flush grout? Yeah. On the dealership side. Commissioner Carroll?
You took care of it. I was just going to see if Commissioner Jackal wanted to amend her motion.
All right. Commissioner Garrison?
A quick clarification on the sidewalks. Is that the city responsibility?
The city CIP project will include sidewalks along the area that's being vacated and improved up to the edge of approximately where Plymouth is, and then the applicant will be responsible for the remainder of the site.
All right, thank you.
All right. Any comments from our student commissioners?
Hi. So yes, I believe that adding a dealership here in Vista would be extremely beneficial. I say this because I go to school in Escondido, and I get off where the 78 meets Broadway. That's where the Toyota dealership is. And so I see that as a very beautiful structure, and I always see a lot of business there. And I believe the same can be applied to this Honda dealership being added to Vista. It'll be a beautiful structure, and we can have a lot of business there too.
Very good. Thank you. All right. I'm going to call for the question, which is to approve the project as presented with an additional condition that the wall be stuccoed on the neighbor's side and have flush grout and painted on the dealership side. Please cast your vote. And the motion passes unanimously. Mr. Fleshler, welcome to Vista. Okay. The next item on our agenda is item 2. Do we need some time to switch? Nope. Ready? Mr. Ressler, Upper Image Services, please, on their car wash.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. The project before you tonight is the Quick and Clean Car Wash. The application number is P17-0203. The request includes a special use permit inclusive of a site development plan as well as a comprehensive sign program. The subject site is located on the east side of South Melrose Drive between Sunset Drive and Cannon Road. The site address is 1355 South Melrose Drive. The site is 3.47 acres. It's one legal lot, and it's currently vacant land. Surrounding land uses include a single-family home to the north in San Diego County, an agricultural use to the east in San Diego County, equestrian center to the south in San Diego County, and vacant land to the west across South Melrose Drive in the city of Vista. And staff notes that the vacant land to the west has recently been approved for a self-storage facility. The general plan land use designation for the site is neighborhood commercial, which allows for commercial uses, banks, gas stations, as well as restaurants and other commercial uses. The zoning for the property is C1 commercial. The list of permitted uses within the C1 zone include commercial, retail, as well as restaurant uses. The Quick and Clean Car Wash proposal includes a request for a special use permit inclusive of a site development plan as well as a comprehensive sign program. The proposal includes construction and operation of a 6,229 square foot drive-through car wash facility. The site plan indicates landscape parking as well as associated site improvements. The project includes the operation of a drive-through car wash with complementary vacuum stations. The hours of operations would be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily, and the operations of the car wash would require 2 employees on site at all times. The submitted site plan indicates that the proposed car wash building would be constructed along the South Melrose frontage. Other site improvements include a remote pay station located on the southerly edge of the building pad, as well as 41 vacuum stations. Access to the site would be provided by a new 40-foot wide driveway located on South Melrose Drive. The driveway has been designed to provide right-in and right-out access. Off-site improvements would include modification to the existing median in front of the site in order to continue to allow left turn into the site while restricting left turns out of the site. In terms of parking, the City of Vista Development Code requires a total of 10 parking spaces for automated car wash facilities. The proposed use before you tonight includes 41 parking/vacuum station spaces. In order to expand the existing building pad, the grading plan indicates construction of a series of retaining walls. Those retaining walls would be constructed along the east, south, and westerly edge of the existing graded pad. Those are identified in yellow on this slide. The proposed retaining walls would be a maximum of 10 foot, and they would be plantable walls. In regards to landscaping, the proposed site has been designed to dedicate 72% of the site to landscaping, which exceeds the 15% required by code. The floor plan for the car wash building indicates the building has been designed to maintain a 24-foot wide by 180-foot wide car wash tunnel, as well as equipment room, restrooms, as well as associated office space. Architecturally, the proposed building would be 1 story, a maximum height of 24 feet. The building has been designed around a contemporary architectural style. The building will exhibit a 2-tone brown masonry block exterior and enhanced with tower elements with curved roof systems, metal canopies, metal trellises, as well as storefront windows. Here is a conceptual image of the proposed vacuum stations, which also include covered canopies at each station. This project also includes a comprehensive sign program. The proposed sign program includes individual channel lettering for building signage. The building signage would be located on the south, north, as well as west elevation of the building. The sign program also includes a new 10-foot high monument sign located along the South Melrose frontage. Staff has reviewed the plans, visited the site, and feels that the proposed project is consistent with the CN neighborhood commercial designation for the property in regards to the general plan designation. In terms of zoning, the project meets all applicable development standards for the C1 zone. Staff feels the project is consistent with other uses within the area and feels that there's adequate queuing and on-site circulation provided for the proposed use. With that, staff is recommending the Planning Commission adopt a resolution granting a special use permit, inclusive of a site development plan and a comprehensive sign program, to construct and operate a car wash at 1350 South Melrose Drive. That concludes staff's report. Staff does note that there has been correspondence provided to you before the meeting that was received by staff from the adjacent residents regarding this project. Staff, as well as the applicant and the design team, are here to answer any questions you might have tonight. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions of staff? Commissioner Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you walk us through the sound issue? I know this is going to be a big issue for neighbors and everybody else, and there's a pretty comprehensive report in here. Can you or the applicant spend a few minutes and give us details on how you measured sound, what you did, what the steps were that were taken, and what the basic findings were? There's a couple diagrams, there's some good information here, but I think hearing from someone on that before we get into a lot of detailed questions would be helpful.
That sounds great. Just for the audience's information, there was an acoustic report prepared for the project that was prepared by WJV weeks. The staff also had a third-party review the conclusions of that document, and that third-party review was done by Helix Environmental. The acoustic engineer is here tonight. It would probably be best after or when we open the public hearing to have that individual come up and go through the thought process and the theory behind the report itself.
We'll have that as part of the applicant's presentation. I had the same question. Commissioner Garrison?
Yes, Mr. Ressler, could you go over where the entrance to this is relative to the storage unit across the other side of Melrose? Because as I understand it, you can go south on Melrose and take a left turn into the car wash, correct?
That's correct. So the way this was designed and the traffic engineer actually orchestrated this in terms of the design was the new raised median in front of the site that would be installed by the self-storage facility as well as this development, and that median would actually restrict left turns into each property, however, would restrict left out of each property. So as you can see the left turn in right here on the plan here, and that would be the driveway entrance into the self-storage facility. So here's the left lane here, turning left, going west into the self-storage facility, and this would be the left turn lane here, going across South Melrose into the car wash facility with the raised median preventing the left turn outs from each facility.
Okay. Traffic that is headed south on Melrose will turn right into this property. There is no turn lane per se, is there?
Traffic going south would actually be using the left
traffic
turn lane.
going north.
Traffic turning into the site would be from the slow lane going north on South Melrose Drive.
Yeah, because what you have here, you have 3 lanes that when it gets to Sunset goes to 2 lanes. So you have people that in the far right lane want to go right on Sunset. Some of them want to go straight on Melrose. They just want to beat the other traffic. And it's 45 miles an hour. So you don't see a problem with safety, cars turning into this car wash?
The project has been reviewed by the traffic engineer. He's reviewed the configuration and the location of the driveway, and there are no concerns in terms of the traffic staff in regards to this location. I do want to note that the driveway is actually 16 foot wider than a typical required driveway, which is 24 foot wide. The driveway to this facility is going to be 40 foot wide, so it's actually going to be a wider driveway. There is a bike lane adjacent to this site, so that would actually also provide room to turn into the site. So with that being said, yeah, the traffic engineer is acceptable in terms of the design of the entry into the site.
Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ressler, you said there were 41 parking places for this project. There's 41 vacuum stations. So for each car, they have a place to park while they vacuum.
Yeah, so it would be a vacuum / parking space. Yes, so you would have 41 spaces. Our code requires 10, so they're actually in excess of 31 spaces.
Terrific. And we have 2 employees.
That's correct. According to the applicant, they'll have a employee adjacent to the pay station, and they'll also have an employee at the entrance of the car wash tunnel.
And where are the employees to park?
You can invite the applicant to come up. I'm assuming it's going to be 2 of the 41 spaces that are available, but they might be able to best answer that question.
Okay. Is the applicant going to give a presentation or just answer questions?
They felt that staff is going to provide a thorough presentation. I know they're available for questions. I think once the public hearing's open, they'll come up, introduce themselves, and provide you any information you might need tonight.
Perfect. I have a couple other questions. I'll save it for the applicant. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Ressler, could you review the parcel history? How was this site created?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it might be best for somebody that has more history in the city, but...
So this parcel was created when South Melrose was extended through the area. Actually, the parcels on both sides of the street were a larger assemblage of parcels that were split by the road, and this was a remnant parcel that was left behind after that construction occurred. And the city, I think, has owned it since that time.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And there was a photometric plan study done. Could you, photometric plan, comply with our lighting requirements?
Yeah, actually, the site photometric plan does comply with our lighting standards within the development code. Our environmental planner has reviewed that and confirmed that conclusion. In terms of vehicular lights going into the site in evenings, you might have noticed there's a condition included within the resolution that required shrubs along the edge of the perimeter of the vacuum parking stations in order to prevent lights from vehicles extending to the residents to the north and to the east. But in terms of site lighting, yes, it does comply with our code requirements.
Okay. And that generally requires that the lights be hooded and the direct lights shine down, no direct light going off-site.
Yeah, no spillage off-site, that's correct.
Okay, very good. All right. Commissioner Garrison.
Mr. Ressler, could you go over the water and where the water drains? Because now this property is kind of dug down so it flows to the north and around and then goes into the creek that eventually goes to Lake Calavera.
So on the slope, it's actually still going to do the same sheet draining off this property down to the existing creek along the north, east, and south property lines, and the same drainage pattern that's existing on site. However, in terms of the building pad itself, there is a retention basin that's located along the southerly portion of the building pad that the site would drain over to.
So you don't see any problem with drainage, because right now you get a lot of water absorbed into the property because there's no pavement. But once there's pavement, that water is going to, all that rainwater and so forth is going to drain off to the north, around, and into that creek. So you don't see a problem with excessive amount of water going into that creek and underneath Melrose and underneath Lake Avenue, Lake Boulevard.
There'll be additional vegetation planted on the slope that would probably help for absorbing, rainwater. However, our land development department requires a preliminary water quality management plan associated with this application. They reviewed that plan and confirmed that it meets our city requirements. And that is an extensive plan that takes months of preparation in order to deem it acceptable prior to going before the Planning Commission. So that exercise has been done, and it's been deemed acceptable by our land development division. So yes, we do feel comfortable with the drainage associated with this project.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Looney.
Commissioner Garrison, along that same note, state requires that every drop of water that hits a hard surface be collected. And that's what this bioretention basin is to the south. So all the water that hits the roof and all the parking areas on the property go to that basin. The rainwater that hits the slopes, that will be absorbed into the soils, and any excess rain is taken off into brow ditches and then will find its way to the creek. But anything that touches hard surface, that's brought into the bioretention basin and put back into the ground. So there's really, the government is very strict on that, and it's made development a real pain in the rear the last 2 years, and it's going to get worse. But it is a good thing because it brings that water back into the soil rather than putting it in the curb gutter.
All right. If there are no other comments, we'll open the public hearing. And I have the applicant, Michael Scarborough or Sofia Hernandez.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. I'm Mike Scarborough with 3K1 Consulting here on behalf of Quick and Clean. As Mr. Ressler indicated, we were very happy with the presentation that he put together for you folks and really came today to answer any questions you guys might have. And we also made sure that our noise consultant was available today as well, as we know that that would be a topic that would want to be discussed. So we're here to answer any questions. We're excited about this opportunity. As Mr. Ressler indicated, in terms of that water quality management plan, there's been a significant amount of energy and effort put into making that specific plan work, in addition to a myriad of other things that need to be done on that parcel to make it developable. I know that it has been undeveloped for many years for a variety of reasons, some of which we've had to overcome to make the site work today, but we're excited about being here and I'm looking forward to operating in Vista.
Very good. Don't go away. We have questions. Commissioner Jackal?
Good evening. I'd like to confirm that the hours of operation are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yes, ma'am. That was something we agreed to as part of the approval.
Okay, and after it's closed at 7 p.m., do you have any kind of security or?
Yes, ma'am. The site will have multiple security cameras on it in general. We would leave a low amount of security lighting. We don't want it to be completely dark. We need to be able to still police the site with the video cameras. And then the site is typically secured through some form of on-site gate so that vehicles can't pull onto the site and be there when we're not operating.
Okay. And somebody will be watching the videos?
Always, okay. Always. And after 7 p.m., the car wash tunnel itself is shut down and all the vacuums are shut down, the hoses are pulled off. You couldn't go on there and try to utilize, you could try to go, I guess you could try, but it's not possible to do anything once the site's shut down.
Okay. Wish you'd provided better perspectives of how this would look. For the people who live above you, looking down on your property, what is that street? Sunset. What will they see? Well, for example, this just shows a bare roof. Are there air conditioning things or?
Roof plan.
They did submit two perspectives for the project. I have them in the back of my presentation here. This will give you an understanding. Unfortunately, one of the perspectives isn't from the adjacent residents. The perspectives that they provided are from South Melrose Drive, and they're not on this presentation.
But are there air conditioning things on the roof, or are the residents that live above just basically going to see the canopies and the roofs?
The only area inside the car wash that is air conditioned is the two offices and the restrooms. The air conditioning unit is typically fairly small. I don't recall whether or not we were doing a roof-mounted unit here, or if we were doing a ground-mounted unit, but that would be the only thing on the roof. And it would be screened from eye level anyway. So that would be the only thing on the roof. If it's roof mounted, I don't recall, but we can certainly make it ground mounted if that's more amenable. It's such a small unit; it's only conditioning a very small space.
Okay, and I know you submitted elevations of how the structures will look, but I wish there'd been something from looking at it from the middle of Melrose, so we could see it with, the vegetation and it in place.
We actually have that. We did submit that, so I think there just may be missing in the.
Unfortunately, this presentation doesn't have the two perspectives that they provided. They provided a perspective going south on Melrose as well as going north on Melrose. We could potentially take a break if you'd like. I can confirm those images are incorporated into here. If you want to give me a 5-minute recess, something like that, to do that, I can do so if you'd like, if that's important information you'd like to see tonight.
Well, I would love to see it. I leave it up to the rest of the commissioners.
It does address what you're looking for, though. It addresses the landscaping and the perspective as Melrose is dropping and how the store sits compared to, and the landscaping that's sitting on the grade
That's what
change.
I'd really
So,
like to see.
yeah, it does address that.
If you want to take a 5-minute recess, I can.
Yeah.
Get
Do you
those
want to do that?
images prepared.
All right. We will then take a 5-minute break, recess for 5 minutes, let Mr. Ressler get these images, and we'll reconvene. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What?
You want to sign out the students?
Oh, if there are students from Rancho, come up and we'll sign your forms. I'm sorry, I didn't think there was.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, if you guys want to stick around, you can.
Thank you. Thank you. Two. Thank you.
So I think we're going to get back together here. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Jackal has left the dais. We'll wait for her to come back, and then we'll get started again. Yes. All right, we will reconvene, and we were looking for perspective drawings from Melrose. Mr. Riesler?
Okay, so this is a perspective of the site from traveling south on Melrose Drive, looking southeast into the site. You can see the decorative storefront windows, the tower elements at the entry and the exit of the car wash tunnel, and you can see the vacuum stations along the street frontage. The applicant also provided a perspective going north on South Melrose Drive, again showing the entrance of the car wash tunnel, some of the architectural details and so forth, the tower elements again at the entry and the exit of the tunnel itself, and it gives you a better understanding of the building as it relates to South Melrose Drive.
Very good. Commissioner Jackal, does it? Your microphone?
I really appreciate the opportunity to see these. Now, are there going to be street trees along where we're looking? I know you don't want to hide the business, but...
They do have 24-inch box trees along the front setback along South Melrose Drive. It's indicated in the landscape plan L1 and L2 within your packet. The setback includes 24-inch box trees. The remainder of the site is 15-gallon as well as 24-inch box trees. That's correct.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just bought my brand new Honda, and it's a nice, shiny silver blue. So I pull in, I make a left turn, doing the right thing, and I pull in and I come up to the pay station. What happens then? What are my options?
There's a variety of options at that point, but what you're pulling into is an ATM-style kiosk. We'll have an employee there to help you if there's any assistance needed. It's a fairly straightforward menu. You'll choose the wash that you would like, and then the gate will open, indicating it's your turn to get into the queue. You'll come around the queue to the car wash building. There'll be another employee there who's waving you onto the conveyor to make sure you're lined up properly, and then also to make sure you put the car in neutral and take your foot off the brake. The conveyor will pull you through and wash the vehicle for you, and then when you're done, you have the opportunity then to either vacuum and leave directly, and in fact, on your way to the pay stations, you can go vacuum first. So this layout gives us the opportunity to vacuum first or vacuum second. At minimum, we'll have 2 employees on site. In certain days, certain weekends, we may have as many as 4 on this site because it's a large site to monitor and to make sure that we keep it clean. I would say at the very minimum 2, more than likely 3, and on some cases 4 employees. One of the questions I think you asked early on as well regarding the parking spaces for employees, Mr. Ressler was right on. The answer is they would park in one of the vacuum stalls spaces. That's where they would put their vehicle, more than likely on the northern side of the site.
So when I was, before coming to your car wash, when I was driving through probably Carlsbad, I hit a big giant pothole and my wheels got all dirty. Will that first employee, when he's getting me in there, will he do a little hand wash on those, or do I get what I get?
Typically they'll do some minor preparation, but the car washes, the technology inside those car washes today are such that there's very little the employee needs to do in terms of prepping your vehicle. But one of the options on the pay screen would be, I want my wheels and tires clean. And then some people don't want their tires clean, and so you have the option not to have that. So there's a few options there, but yes, the equipment itself would clean whatever part of the vehicle you're wanting cleaned.
Okay, so if I do pick the wheel deal or whatever that you call it, it will clean my wheels and will clean my tires, but no blue stuff to make the wheels shiny or anything like that?
No, actually, that's a roll-on applicator. So when you're going through the tunnel, there's a very large, it used to be a sponge, but I think even that's changed now, but it's a very large sponge that comes in and ties up to the tire. As the tire pushes past it, it applies the Armor All or whatever the product is onto it. So it's self-applied in the tunnel by the equipment.
I'll be darned. But I can't get a full detail there.
No, ma'am. We do not have any vehicles or any employees touching or getting into your vehicle.
Okay, so they don't dry it off as I come out the drying tunnel?
No, the way that these car washes work also is that the chemical and water mixture, in addition to the blowers, typically leave the car somewhere 96% dry. But you'll have the opportunity again, if there's a couple spots you want to touch up, you can do that. We also have typically high pressure air at the vacuums. And so if you want to blow off the air out of your window sill that always blows back on your car as you're pulling away, you can blow that out as well.
Okay, so I hit the tunnel, they wave me through, make sure I'm in there, I got my foot off the brake and the windshield wipers aren't going to turn on. How long am I in the tunnel from start to finish?
Less than 3 minutes.
Wow, impressive. Very nice. My concern prior to you speaking with me was I see in this area a definite need for a car wash because there's one at Hacienda, full-service car wash. I think there's one at Business Park and Palomar Airport Road, full service. And I had the feeling that this could have been something like when I was growing up, the 25-cent car wash where, I mean, there was more dirt left on the car than, you know. And from speaking with you, I don't have that opinion. So I think this is a very good area that will serve the neighborhood well. So thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Looney.
Thank you. I'd like to touch on three different parts. First of all, you provide a colored rendering of the canopy renderings, and I want the commissioners just to be aware that this colored rendering is specifically for the canopy. There is no pitched roof that is visible on this view, and there's no exposed concrete split face block. So this is just the canopy. And the question to you, the red really doesn't go with your color scheme. So are these really red canopies?
Yes, sir. The intention is they would be red stanchions with red canvas. Yes, sir.
Okay. Looking at your color palette, on the second sheet of A20, you've got earth tones. So we've got a bright red up against a lot of earth tone colors. So that may be something that we address. So, another item is on the architecture on the first sheet of A2, 0, on the west elevation, we've got a series of metal framing, it appears, on the walls. But on that west elevation, it's delineated as concrete block, but it's labeled as glass. So Mr. Resler, could you pull that? Do you have any exterior elevations that you could pull up on the screen? Okay, you're on the first sheet of A20. Because there's two.
Yes.
Okay. On the west elevation, right in the center of the building, you've got a series of grids that are between the glass. Thank you. These areas in here, on the reference note, it says it's clear glass storefront. But on the drawings, it's shown as, it looks like split face, or it shows like block.
These are actually metal trellises.
Okay.
These are actually raised window systems.
Yeah.
So really, the plans aren't calling out the right material.
The notation on the plan is incorrect. Okay. Yes, those are green, what we call green screens between the glass windows for plants to grow up.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, you just want to make sure it was.
No, you're reading them right. I apologize for that. That's just notated incorrectly.
On the landscape plan, if we could go over to. Let's see. Please be patient. I lost my markers. Let's start with sheet L1.
Okay.
Along South Melrose, we've got some lemon-scented gum, which is a eucalyptus tree. They're spaced about 20 feet apart, and at maturity, these things are 100 feet in height. They get really tall, and they have a tendency to blow over when they do reach maturity. So I would have you maybe reconsider a different type of landscaping along the street. Also on the slopes, we've got several oak trees, and they typically range, well, the coast live oak, those typically get 30 feet in diameter and 30 feet tall. And then you've got an Engelmann oak, those get 60 to 90 feet tall. And then the California laurel, those get up to 60 feet in height. We've got the trees on the slope that are planted 20 feet apart. So I don't think you're going to have enough light for these trees to grow as they should. And then on sheet L2, we've got a tremendous amount of ground cover underneath this tree canopy. So I would like to see you reevaluate the landscaping, because I think it's overdone. Virtual forest. And plus the cost of these oaks, a 24-inch box is going to run around $500 a piece. And you've got 200 to 300 trees here. So
understood, and we're more than happy to work with staff on a plant palette that maybe makes a little bit more sense in this
I think it could be done, but just look at this, and if staff could just look a little bit closer at the landscaping, particularly on that slope, to where we get some variety, where it looks like something was intentional, rather than 150 oak trees that really are planted so close to each other that they're not going to survive. So that would be my suggestion.
We can work with the applicant on that.
Yeah.
I'll relay this information to the city's landscape architect and make sure that we reevaluate the approach that they take.
Okay. Thank you for your listening ear.
Oh, thank you.
Virtual forest if it matured. Commissioner Garrison.
Yes, I'd like to ask about the sidewalk. Right now, it's dirt, all the way from Aegis, all the way up to almost Sunset. So will the applicant be required to put cement on the sidewalk? At least that portion of land that they're responsible for?
Yeah, if you go to land development condition 3CB, it talks about the improvements along South Melrose Drive, which includes a new 5-foot wide sidewalk.
But it wouldn't include all the way to Aegis. So is that part of the city's capital improvement plan now? Because
I
at one
couldn't confirm
time
if
that
that's
was.
the existing improvement plan as of right now. In regards to this project, the applicant will be required to provide that sidewalk along their entire frontage along South Melrose.
Okay, thank you. And the sign in the front, will that be illuminated?
Can you bring that up?
The sign, the big sign.
Give me 1 second on that one.
That sign.
It will be the sign itself would be backlit, but there isn't a reader board or electronic message on that sign.
So it should not have any impact on the neighbors.
No, yeah, it's actually internally illuminated fluorescent illumination.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Bill?
Thank you. All 41 spaces have a vacuum at them?
Yes, sir.
And is that standard company planning, or is there a reason? Do you expect 41 cars vacuuming at once?
It has happened, but that is more when you have a handful of people that are spending significant amount of time doing the final detailing of their own vehicle. But we like to have a significant number of vacuum spaces just to give customers the absolute certainty that when I come out of that car wash, if I want to pull in, I know I'm going to have a spot. The last thing you want is to have them come out of the car wash tunnel, see that it's full, and try to find a spot to queue and wait. We feel with 41 we have more than enough spots and we won't have that issue.
And it sounds like you have several of these locations in the area?
Yes, sir. Not in the area here yet. We have 2 or 3 in the development process in this general vicinity. But the owner of Quick and Clean and I have developed over 40 of these in 5 states. He is known as a very strong and good, reputable operator. We've won Architectural Excellence Awards in the city of Chandler in Arizona. We have done this many, many times, and we've been successful where we've done them. And in some cases, we've actually backed up and shared a property line with neighbors and never even so much had a complaint. So we're real excited about being here, and yes, we've done this a handful of times.
And part of that is this is not a franchise where it's a one-off for someone. You and I assume the corporation for this one may be different, but overall there's an ownership company that holds this along with other locations?
Yes, sir. Quick and Clean is the brand. Upper Image is the holding entity, but Quick and Clean is the brand, and they are not franchised. No, they're corporately owned.
And then any concern with any backup at the entrance of the car wash, pulling in, the initial payment? What's your experience with cars backing up to the street at that point? In other car washes it happens, so what have you seen?
Certainly I wouldn't be being honest if I said I've never seen it happen, but because of where the payment kiosk is all the way around to the southeast part of the site, once a customer has seen it once, they're going to know where they need to go, and they're going to make their decision to move fairly quickly. We don't anticipate, because of how much on-site stacking we have, we don't anticipate ever stacking into Melrose at this location.
Good, thank you.
Commissioner Looney.
Question for staff. To the south of this parcel, there's 2 very extreme grade elevations. We basically, to the immediate south of this parcel, we've got the native grade elevation where it drops 20, 30 feet at least. And then further south, then we've got someone that's taking a few years to build some retaining walls to level that out. What's the long-term plan for that recessed area between the graded area and this existing pad? Is that still private property that's part of the horse?
Let's see if we can
ranch?
pull up the aerial here. In which area are we talking about? If you're talking about any area outside the site that is located south, that would be in San Diego County, so that's not in our jurisdiction.
So that's county property?
That's correct.
Oh, okay. Okay. And then the parcel that's in this area where they're doing the retaining walls, is that also county?
Oceanside?
Oh, we got one of those. Okay. Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
All right. Why don't you have your noise expert come up and we'll answer that question about the noise from the car wash now?
Hello, I'm Walter Van Groningen with WJV Acoustics. So we did the noise study. It sounds like you kind of were just wanting a basic overview of our approach and how we did and what we did, and then I can go over that and then answer any questions. So basically, when we're doing the car wash noise study, typically the blowers at the exit are the loudest component of a car wash, but the noise study did analyze the car wash as a whole, as well as increases in traffic noise that the city staff asked us to touch on. To assess the noise levels associated with the car wash, we typically have to first determine the type of equipment they're going to use. In this particular case, that's a Payco brand blower, and the applicant uses the same equipment on their existing car washes. So what we did was we located one that was in close proximity to us, and we went and did some noise measurements while the car wash was in operation, both from the exit tunnel and the entrance tunnel. So we looked at those noise levels that we got. Manufacturer of the product also has their own noise data that they provide. I looked at their noise data. Their noise data that they provided was about 2 decibels higher than my measured data. So I used the manufacturer supplied louder data to kind of incorporate like a worst case assessment of the project noise level. Other thing that's important to consider when you're looking at the findings of the noise study, the city's noise standards are hourly LEQ standards, which is an hourly average at the property line. So the way that the car wash works, when a vehicle pulls in, the blowers aren't on constantly. So they cycle on and off based upon sensors inside the tunnel. It's probably pretty unlikely that for ongoing periods of time that the car wash blower is in operation continuously, but because it is possible that it can in times that it's really busy and the cars are backed up, the analysis assumes that the noise levels from the blowers are constant. So it's another thing to keep in mind that when you're looking at these noise levels, they are assuming that the blowers are going constantly during every hour of operation. The chances that actually happens are pretty unlikely, but it's important that we understand that we're looking at the worst case assessment of noise levels. So we take those noise levels and we extend them out based upon standard rates of attenuation from the source to where would they be at the zone property lines. The other component to consider here is what are the existing ambient noise levels. Because the project is on Melrose Drive, which is one of the busiest, if not the busiest roads in the city, the adjacent properties already have relatively high existing ambient noise levels. So the city's noise ordinance basically adopts the county's noise ordinance. And one of the points in the noise ordinance states that when existing ambient noise levels already exceed the standards, then the project is held to a standard of 3 decibels above the existing ambient noise level. So that's where we're at. We demonstrated based upon the distance, the shielding that the tunnel provides. So, if you're directly in front of the exit tunnel, you don't have that much shielding. But if you're at a 45 or a 90, you have significant shielding from the tunnel. So we looked at all those things and calculated what the expected noise levels would be like at the adjacent property lines, and then took into consideration what the existing ambient noise levels are as well.
Very good. Any other questions? Commissioner Kramer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I recall correctly, the tunnel, so the the dryer is at the, like, almost the far south end of the tunnel, correct?
Yeah, they're typically set, and they would know more than I would, 5 to 10 feet or 5 feet back. So even the blowers they are inside the tunnel, and there is some shielding involved.
Okay, so it's the furthest point away from the residents that are on Sunset. Is that correct, Mr. Ressler?
Actually be at the exit of the car wash tunnel. Let me see if I can get back to the site plan here. So here's the exit of the car wash tunnel, and this is the entrance here. You'd go through the tunnel, and the blowers would be at the end of the tunnel, which is actually the northerly edge of that tunnel.
Okay, thank you so much.
Commissioner Garrison?
So you're saying that the neighbors will not hear a difference?
I think it's important to understand there's a difference between will they ever hear it versus will it contribute to the existing ambient noise levels. I would never say, oh, they're never going to hear this. But when you're measuring the noise levels as far as decibels go based upon an hourly LEQ, which is an average noise level, the noise levels associated with that would not contribute to the existing ambient noise levels that are already relatively high due to the traffic.
Let's talk about the maximum noise level that could exist from the site.
Sure.
What would that be?
So I don't know if you have access to the noise study, but the noise levels that are described in table 6, page 13. Again, so all these noise levels that are presented in here are all based upon the assumption that the blowers are going constantly. When the blowers are on, which are far and away the loudest component of a car wash. So when the blowers are on, the noise level doesn't fluctuate hardly at all. Usually 1 to 2 decibels. If I'm standing at my noise level meter and I'm watching it as the blowers are on, there's very little fluctuation. So the maximum noise would essentially be equivalent to what I assumed to be the LEQ, which is the hourly, because of that constant noise level.
So a person can detect 3 decibel, correct?
Generally speaking,
and 5 decibel is, annoying. You're saying that none of the neighbors should hear 5 decibel increase in noise?
It will not increase by 5 decibels.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions for the active station? Very good. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. Mr. Scarborough? I think we have at least I have a couple more questions for you. Any other questions for the applicant here? Okay. Your green screen, we have approved those on a couple other projects in town. Starbucks down off of Business Park, and on your competitor off of East Vista Way. I have told them, and I'll tell you, we're going to watch your screens. If
you don't
your
just
plants,
want to see the screen.
Yeah.
All right,
if your plants die, we want them replaced, okay?
Understood.
The other thing, Mr. Ressler, could we pull up the west elevation? Your building, next one there. Okay, in the center here, your building's 182 feet long. It's got a flat roof, and it's got 2 towers on the ends. My personal opinion is you need something else in the middle to break up that long stretch. Would you be opposed to be adding another canopy halfway down the building to break up that long run of building frontage?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know that I would be opposed to looking at an option in order to alleviate that long linear. I don't know that a tower necessarily makes the most sense in my opinion.
Okay.
But we're certainly open to trying to do something there to break that up. I think we had worked with a couple elevations where we did just some raising of the parapet, but then it started to look manufactured and not not like it was flowing or intended
I like
to be
your
there.
canopy. I like the canopy. It's
And
nice.
so what we did do, and Ms. Russell can attest to this, we originally had the curvilinear shade structure over the glass. We had that at a different elevation, and we tried to pop that up in order to try to get just a little bit of articulation along the wall. But when we were messing around with that long linear line on top of the car wash, we were really struggling with how we were going to not make it look like we just pasted it there to meet a requirement. But I would be happy to work with staff on trying to find something there, some middle ground there that may make a little more sense.
Personally, for me, I don't know how the rest of the commissioners feel, and we'll find out, but that's an issue for me, okay? I don't have any other questions from the commissioners. Thank you very much, and we'll open the public hearing to, we have several other speakers. Dexter Freeman, please, followed by Tanja Freeman. Name and address for our record, please.
Okay, so good evening, Planning Commission of Vista. My name is Dexter, and I'm over off of Buena Vista, one of those dead-end roads, and on Naval Place. I want to talk about the noise. So I like to go outside on my property and enjoy nature, have a little silence, and sometimes I can hear noise from the nearby school, Lake Elementary. And if one vacuum cleaner makes a lot of noise, how would 41 make not so much noise? I mean, if you hear that, it's going to be really loud.
Is that your question?
Yeah, and also, on the way to school, I have to go off of Sunset, and if you turn off of there, there's already a lot of traffic. If you put the car wash in, that's just going to add more traffic. And if you leave at 7:15 to go somewhere, the car wash is already opened.
That's true.
And if you did leave a little earlier, wouldn't there already be cars lined up just to wait for it to open?
Yeah, they won't be allowed to do that. They won't be allowed to stack out onto Melrose and park on Melrose waiting for the car wash to open.
But yeah, if you leave at 7:15, the car wash is already open and there's probably already a lot of traffic going there.
They have designed the project to provide stacking like you'd see at McDonald's for the drive-through, and the cars are stacked up waiting to place their order. They have that type of stacking distance here.
But like I said, the noise level could be really high because one vacuum is really loud. So imagine 41 of those.
That's true. And they have done a noise study, and the noise study says that you won't hear it at your place. You're probably more likely to hear the noise from Melrose.
Could you bring up the map? Could you bring up the map, please? Where the other... Yeah. So... There's a part of my house over there, and yeah, we did not get talked to about it.
About this hearing? Or
We got notified about that, but we just didn't get talked to about...
The applicant didn't come and talk to you about...
No,
Okay.
no.
Well, they're not required to. What they're required to do is if you live within 500 feet of the property, you get a notice of this hearing so you can come and talk to us about it.
Yeah, but from sound really echoes in the valley, so if it is loud, you just hear it even louder because it would echo.
Right. Okay. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. Tanja Freeman?
Hi, my name is Tanya Freeman. Thank you for hearing my side of things. I live at 1228 Naval Place, which is technically part of the county, but it's not far from the site. One of the things that I feel like this plan did not cover, even though you had sound reports, it may have measured at the actual site, but it did not measure the shape of the area. We live in what I call a bowl. And as you know, with sound acoustics, if you think about science class and echo, sound travels. And for us, sound is amplified. Currently, we barely hear Melrose, but we hear things like farm animals from across the distance. We hear things like the church choir singing. We don't want to give that up. I can't believe that there would be no impact to us. We are also surrounded by other businesses that would be impacted, such as Sunset Valley Orchids. There's Slate Barn. Imagine having a wedding and there's 41 vacuum cleaners in the background of your wedding video. Imagine that. A quick Google search came up with information about this company that makes me extremely nervous. One of them has to do with the reviews and their track record. They've had multiple closures in multiple states. So are they going to open here and then close down again? There are multiple reports, and I've submitted to the committee evidence of this. Their machinery damaging cars. What people are calling fraudulent business practices, people feeling very ripped off by their business model, feeling like the customer service didn't address their concerns. So again, is this good? What's good for Avista? A lot of this has to do with our quality of life. We have school children who walk up Melrose and cut across near that property to get to the back neighborhoods. I didn't hear a lot addressed about that area. I only see what's relevant to Melrose, but we live here too, and I hope that you really consider our end of things because we live with it every day and we're impacted by this, whether it's shown on that picture or not. The very corner of my property is shown on this map, but my house is not. We've got 6 houses on our street. We also have people who are employees that work outside from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They're made to endure this extra 3 decibels that could lead to hearing loss. Please consider that. And thank you for your time to listen.
Thank you. James Stuckard.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is James Stuckrad. I live at 1830 Calypso Drive in Vista. And first, I want to thank you all for volunteering your time. A lot of people don't understand you're all volunteers, and I just want to thank you for what you do for the city of Vista. I think there's 2 questions that really need to be asked. Number 1, do we really need another car wash? There's a full-service car wash on Melrose and Hacienda. There's another full-service car wash on Business Park. And if you go over to a little bit to the west and Oceanside, there's a full-service car wash on College near the 78. In addition, there's numerous self-serve drive-through car washes, one just being right down the street at the 7-Eleven on Melrose in Buena Vista. There's another one on Melrose and Sycamore at the Chevron station. There's another one on Shadridge Drive at Sycamore. I think we have plenty of car washes. I don't think we need another car wash. The second question I have is more of the reviews that Ms. Freeman was talking about. If you go on Yelp, you see there's a few good comments, mostly about the cheapness of price, But when you dig into the reviews, there's quite a few comments about overcharging people's credit cards. There's numerous complaints about their machinery damaging people's vehicles. There's one review that says he would like to give the car wash company a negative 100 stars if it was possible. There's been complaints that people show up during scheduled hours of operation and the car washes are closed, not to mention the ones that have gone out of business. Do we really want an out-of-state business coming to our city with these negative reviews? And there's a lot of them. I hope you had the time to look at that. I've also heard from numerous residents in the area. They are complaining about, they're afraid of the noise, but put that aside, I'm more concerned about the traffic. If you've got someone coming out to go north on Melrose, but they really want to head south, they're going to cut across all 3 lanes of traffic. And the posted speed limit is 45, but I think we all know for the people that live there, traffic goes a lot more than 45, and that's another issue for another day. But they're going to cut across all 3 lanes to get into the number 1 lane so they can go up to Sunset where the traffic light is to make a U-turn, which is going to create even more problems for the people that are trying to turn off Sunset onto South Melrose. They're not going to be used to people making U-turns, and they're going to end up, I really believe that accidents will definitely go up. I just don't see this as the right area for this particular type thing. I'd heard tonight that this area the land is owned by the city. Perhaps the people that I've talked to that live in this area would rather see more of a neighborhood park, possibly a dog park, something of that nature to preserve the open space. We don't have that much open space left, and it just seems like we keep building more and more things in the South Vista area. And people are getting tired of seeing the commercial buildings, the homes, the apartments, the condos. Let's try to keep what little open space we have. And a neighborhood park would be a good start with that. I know my time's up, so I just want to say thank you for listening, and I just request a no vote on this application. And thank you for listening, and you guys are doing a great job. Thank you for what you do for the city of Vista.
Very good. And our last speaker is Laura Spalding.
My name is Laura Spalding. I live at 1476 Fern Place in Vista, and which is the equestrian center that's on the map. My concerns are mostly, we are for development in this area because we're trying to actually sell our property. So we're for that. But my concerns are that this property was built up from, it used to be at the same level as my property, but the city built it up from 3.5 acres to a 1 acre lot, which concerned me at the time. I was afraid of what the drainage was going to be in my property, but that's done. I am concerned, though, with the drainage and what the landscaping is going to be like on the slopes. If it's going to cause a problem with heavy rains, or I want to make sure it's done right. I'm not sure that car wash is the right thing for this spot, but that's about, I'm just mainly concerned about, the elevation difference and the drainage and the landscaping. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. All right, that is our last public speaker, or at least the request to speak form that I had. We'll close the public hearing and open it up to commissioner discussion. Commissioner Carroll.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a concern about the property, about the building as the car exits heading north, and then to leave the site makes a left-hand turn into the driveway opening. It's a very short distance from Melrose to this exit point, like about a car length. It looks like 20 feet or so. I'm a little bit concerned about the interaction of the vehicles leaving the car wash and then making that left to get out with vehicles coming in from northbound Melrose. I think they'll probably see them better if they're crossing from southbound, but a northbound vehicle turning in and an exiting vehicle turning left. What I'd prefer to have seen there, and maybe there's a little bit of wiggle room that can be worked into this, is to have that length from the driveway, from the sidewalk at Melrose to the exit of the car wash be longer, 40 feet or so. And I don't know if that can be improved upon with some sort of an S-turn to the east and then back to the north, or by a slight shift of the driveway to the north to pick up a little bit of room to allow for that S-turn to not be a tight turn, or a shift of the building to the south with a little bit less stacking room near the detention basin. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, and I don't know if the owner has any thoughts or ideas on what you might be able to do to alleviate a little bit of a traffic congestion issue there with incoming and outgoing vehicles.
Commissioner Carroll, I think the spacing you have there is probably more on the order of the 35 to 40 feet that you're looking for. Just for point of reference, the width of that drive is probably 10 feet exiting the car wash tunnel. So when you look at it in that perspective, you're probably looking at closer to 40 feet, which would give approximately 2 cars sitting before they actually have to enter into that drive aisle. We could look at trying to angle the drive back to the northeast slightly. The only issue I would have with that potentially is that now you're doing greater than a 90-degree turn back to the exit, and sometimes that can be cumbersome for some people.
Sure.
But we are certainly open to, again, working with staff on a solution there to alleviate that issue. We're not opposed to trying to alleviate that issue from your perspective.
It's not a deal breaker for me. It's just something that caught my eye, and that's why I was thinking of ways to stretch out that distance so that it's not an acute angle there where they intersect, and whether it's even by shifting the driveway a little bit north, shifting the building a little bit south, even if it's, I'm not going to beat you up over it. I just wanted to bring it up. It's something that caught my eye.
Commissioner Garrison?
I have the same concern with the traffic as I mentioned earlier. Is you have people headed north there that are going in every direction. The far right lane is cutting into the car wash. They're getting on the right lane to turn right on Sunset. And cars coming out of here want to get in the far left lane. I see it as a major problem and a potential hazard.
Again, Commissioner Garrettson, we did spend a decent amount of time with City of Vista traffic engineering, in addition to our own traffic engineer, analyzing and looking at that scenario. And while any movement on or off a thoroughfare has the potential to cause conflict, this really has been deemed a non-issue in terms of those types of conflicts from the traffic engineering group, in addition to our own traffic engineer. The speed of the traffic is 45 miles an hour. The northbound traffic is coming up is coming up a grade. We factored all of those things into the analysis that was completed, and truthfully, of all the things that we had to tackle and kind of work through, the traffic issue as it relates to specifically to that location and the movements that are there was one that was addressed early and fairly quickly.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the commissioners? For me personally, as I said in the discussion, the architectural elevations along Melrose, I think they've got a 180-foot long building with 2 towers at both ends. And I just think, as with the storage facility across the street, we had them add some additional architectural elements to it, add another tower element because of the long front flat building. So, in my mind, something needs to be done to the length of that building as it fronts on Melrose, and I'd give staff the discretion to work on that to address that elevation. Commissioner Kramer?
I have a question for Commissioner Looney. Commissioner Looney, you mentioned the orange shells over the vacuum area. Did you have any suggestions on what might be better and balance more in that neighborhood than bright orange, bright red?
I think if they could use an accent color that is more along in the earth tones.
Okay, something that's more in their palette.
Mm-hmm. If you look at the 4 different colors presented on sheet A20, I know these are prints, colored prints, and sometimes the color saturation on the prints is only as good as a printer. But I did go to, I think it was Benjamin Moore colors. Have a fan deck, basically it has all the different colors on them. Mm-hmm. And they're really kind of the same color when you step back 100 feet. I think the color differences are going to be very subtle. And then to have a bright orange canopy, it really doesn't fit the color scheme. And I think you could go with maybe something like a dark brown that is in the same hue as the other color chips provided, but the red just doesn't do anything for me.
Okay, thank you.
And then one of the other thing, kind of along the same lines, and it's for staff, but the exterior elevations, particularly on the west wall that we were addressing earlier, it doesn't match the floor plan. Because the floor plan shows glass. The exterior elevation shows the concrete block with the green screen on it. So there's inconsistencies on the drawings that have me a little concerned. I mean, I spent time looking at these. I wonder how many other things that we're not seeing.
No, actually, I worked with them on the elevations. Unfortunately, the generation of the floor plan is inconsistent with the generation of the elevation. I think it was 3 or 4 plan check revisions until we got to the elevations that were before you tonight. So unfortunately, I apologize that floor plans are inconsistent with the elevations, because the elevations have evolved since the first submittal of the project. So, in fact, the floor plan should have been modified to accommodate the changes of the elevation.
Okay. And then I think there is, as Chairman Resler brought up, I think there could be some greater articulation on the building rather than 2 towers on the end of a long linear building. There's ways to do that, and I just would like to see the applicant to study the exteriors with a little bit more articulation where we can get some shadows, and also to reevaluate the color scheme to where they have a little bit more contrast. You could stay in the same hue, but we just need to get a little bit more contrast in the colors.
Commissioner Bell?
Thank you. I'll chip in and say the color scheme bothers me a little as well. I understand it's probably based out of a desert scheme that you guys have been building in Vegas, I assume. So it's not personal. It's just that I think for this neighborhood in this area, it probably doesn't fit the same way it does with your other locations or what you have existing. I don't know what the answer to that is, but maybe look at switching it up a little bit based on recommendations from the other commissioners. There's been a couple of projects that we've looked at in the last few months even that have had pretty good articulation for being storage buildings. I don't want to give you specific examples, but work with the city because there's been some small ways that you can make improvements, I think, that would really satisfy some of the concerns people have. And I have those same concerns. It's not a deal breaker, but I don't love it. So that's my position.
Commissioner Garrison.
Maybe this was stated earlier, but I want to get a clarification. If you're going south on Melrose and you're going to turn left into this car wash, how many cars can stack in that area where you're turning left before you start to block the fast lane of Melrose going south? Because depending on what time of day, going north, it's basically bumper to bumper. So if north is bumper to bumper, how are people going to turn left? And if you only have room stacking for 2 cars, the third car blocks Melrose South in the far left lane.
Based on the site plan, it looks like there's 3 to 4 queuing spaces within that left turn lane before it would come out into the fast lane on South Melrose Drive.
So if 4 or 5 cars wanted to go there, it would block Melrose.
If 5 cars were queuing in that left turn lane, then it would go into the fast lane of South Melrose Drive. Also, keep in mind the traffic generation from this use isn't a shopping center or anything high intensity like that. We're looking at one user, which is a car wash, compared to a shopping center that like down the street that has a Ralph's and the fast food restaurants and so forth. So you have one user and you have a 6,000 square foot car wash. So the thought of having 5, 6 cars queuing to come into this facility, again, like I indicated, the traffic engineer has reviewed this multiple occasions. We had a pre-application meeting. He reviewed the application. I actually reviewed the application again with him last week to confirm his acceptance with the proposal in terms of the configuration, and he is acceptable, and he validated the final design of the exterior circulation improvements.
Well, how many people do they anticipate having per day? And, what's the most because they have 41 vacuums there. You could have 41 cars that want to use that. So if you have 20 going north and 20 going south, you got a major problem.
I guess at this point we might want to have the applicant come up and answer that question for you in terms of operation.
Commissioner Garrettson, we'd love to have as many customers as we can on that site. But the likelihood of us having 40 people in the vacuums at one time is very low. Again, the intent here is to give the perception of I can get on and get into a vacuum stalling, I can get off the property. Most people on average are on the property at least 3 minutes as they go through the tunnel, and if they're vacuuming or washing or drying their vehicle at the end, they may be there another 5 or 10 minutes. We don't ever have 40 people sitting on our site vacuuming and then all leaving at the exact same time as well. I think Mr. Ressler's assessment is correct in that the number of left-hand turns, especially during high peak hour traffic, is not likely to happen. I think everyone understands how traffic works, especially on Melrose, and would avoid wanting to go left into the site during those high peak traffic hours that you're describing, and more than likely hit it as they're coming back down Melrose, back to wherever their original destination was. Would they do it in lighter traffic times? Absolutely. But I think people in general are very intelligent and look at the situation and say, I'm not even going to deal with that right now. I'll deal with it later. Car washing isn't typically a destination use. It's more often than not, it's a convenience. It's something that, oh yeah, you know what, I'm going to swing in there and hit that on the way home. But it's not something you wake up in the morning, put your shoes on, and say, I'm going to run down to the express car washing, I should say, is not that. Full service, that's a destination deal all day long. This is a matter of convenience. And if it's not convenient to make that left because of the traffic, people are just not going to do it. And we've associated that into our business model, understanding that we're going to get more traffic from northbound Melrose than we are southbound, especially during high traffic times.
Well, I know I typically use the car wash at the corner of Shadow Ridge and Sycamore, where they have free vacuums, you know, to go through. And it is not unusual to have every vacuum cleaner. They only have about 8. But the traffic still is a major concern for me in terms of getting right or left with the traffic volume that is on Melrose. I think it's a major problem for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, commissioners? Okay, as I see it, right now we have three issues to try and discuss and resolve. Commissioner Looney's concern about the landscaping plan and looking at the number of trees that are proposed for the site, it would be a virtual forest on that hillside if they all survived. My concern about the architectural elevation and then the color of the vacuum pumps. Are there any others that we need to discuss? Nope. Okay. All right. So, Commissioner Kramer, you're reaching for your button.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that said, and don't seeing any other lights on, I move to adopt Resolution 2018 next, granting a special use permit. Whoops, wrong one.
No?
Sorry, I had item 3 in my book twice. Got it. Okay. Adopt Resolution 2018 granting a special use permit inclusive of a site development plan, comprehensive sign program to construct and operate a drive-through car wash to include vacuum stations and associated site improvements on approximately 3.5 acres of vacant land located at 1350 South Melrose Drive, APN 169-180-27-00. With the following items, to the applicant to work with staff regarding the landscaping plan to make something, we don't end up with the forest, but we end up with the beauty. To do the architectural elevations on the roof line so it looks less like a football field. We've got something in the middle. And to adjust the vacuum hoods, is that the correct?
Yeah, canopy.
Canopies, thank you. The vacuum canopy colors to something that is more into the existing color palette that will blend better. Did I get it all?
As far as I know.
Okay.
Commissioner Jackal? All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the project with the 3 additional conditions. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll call for the question and cast your vote, please. And the motion passes on a 6-1 vote with Commissioner Garrison voting no. So, thank you very much. Okay. Ms. Chow, we don't have any public speakers for the next item, I don't think. No? Okay. When you're ready, Mr. Magnusarian.
Good evening, Chairman Rossler, commissioners, planning staff, and members of the public. It is my pleasure to present to you tonight a special use permit application for Carlsbad Ranch Market, CRM Vista Incorporated, at the property address at 3225 Business Park Drive, unit number 1, permit number P17-0418. This is for an off-sale, off-site beer and wine type 20 ABC license. The proposed project is for a special use permit to allow sales of alcoholic beverages for off-site consumption at 3225 Business Park Drive, unit number 1. This is a new organic produce market between the hours of 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. each day of the week for alcohol sales. Applicant has requested an SUP for beer and wine sales. The applicant has already submitted and has already reviewed by the Building Division and Planning Division for tenant improvements for a 3,500 square foot tenant space, including improvements to the patio areas. This is the proposed patio area that was already reviewed and approved by the building department and planning staff, and the improvements are already underway. The property is currently located in the Vista Business Park Specific Plan, Area A. The general plan designation for the property is general commercial. This is the proposed floor plan for the retail market use with a deli on the inside and patios on the outside. The proposed use is consistent with the general plan and any applicable specific plan because the property is located within the general plan's general commercial land use area. The proposed use is also permitted in the applicable zone because of this business park specific plan. Area A allows for retail uses, restaurants, and types of uses in the vicinity, and the use will conform to applicable laws and regulations. The size of the site is sufficient to reasonably accommodate the planned activities since all infrastructure and structures are already existing, and the operating characteristics will be compatible with the existing and planned uses in the vicinity. The proposed use will provide the neighborhood and the city with a service that will contribute to its general welfare and will not be unduly detrimental to the health, safety, or general welfare of people in and around the area. The property is located in a low crime beat area of the city, beat 317. It's got a crime index of 45.7% of the citywide average of 2017. An index greater than 120% of the citywide average is considered a high crime beat area. So this area is considered a low crime rate. An over-concentrated area it is. The census tract 0200.17 allows for up to 2 ABC off-sale licenses. There are 3 existing today. The 7-Eleven at 3251 Business Park Drive, the Arco AM/PM at 625 Sycamore Avenue, and Target at 3150 Business Park Drive. This is the project site. Staff would like to note as well that after staff's resolution, staff report, and conditions of approval were completed, the ABC updated their data as a result of staff inquiring about the other off-sale use locations in the same tract. The original information noted that this tract was under-concentrated, with allowances of 2 off-site sales locations, with one already existing being the 7-Eleven location at 3251 Business Park Drive, which is in the same commercial shopping center as Carlsbad Ranch Market, as seen in the image on the right side of the screen. It has been noted since the report was produced that the ABC noted the tract is actually overconcentrated, and this would be number 4 in the ABC census tract for off-sale licenses, the other 3 locations being, as I stated before, the 7-Eleven, the Arco AM/PM, and the Target. Staff's recommendation is to adopt the resolution approving the special use permit for sale of alcoholic beverages for off-site consumption, Type 20 ABC license for beer and wine at 3225 Business Park Drive, Unit Number 1 for Carlsbad Ranch Market. And that concludes staff's presentation, and I can answer any questions that you may have for me or the applicant.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions for staff? Commissioner Garrison?
So we're overly concentrated in this area, but we're still recommending approval. And there's one literally on the other side of the shopping center. How does that contribute to the welfare of the community?
The maximum number of 4 given by the ABC does not prevent the applicant from submitting the application. That is still up to the Planning Commission to review the proposal. It is zoned, this is a business park specific plan area A, which still allows for retail uses, restaurant uses, which along with that comes the alcohol sales if the applicant so chooses to. But it's still up to the special use permit process and the Planning Commission to make that determination.
But we would be going against policy set up by the city council. They said 2, there are already 3, and now we're recommending a 4th.
I believe the 2 comes from the ABC as well, based on the population of the tract that it's in, with a low crime rate area as well. This would be number 4. That does exceed the 2 allowed, but that does not prevent us from approving more than 2.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Kramer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm struggling the same as Commissioner Garrettson is, and I want to throw another little monkey wrench in here. So they have a patio. Does that mean I can buy the alcohol in the ranch market and come out and drink on the patio?
No, so it's only for off-sale license. They do have a Type 41 beer and wine sales for the deli portion of it, which there will be staff to serve that to the patrons. They do meet the ABC standards for the patio area, for it to be enclosed, not to be taken off-site, and all that information along with it.
Okay. Do you know, is there a process to get that census tract change from allowing 2 to allowing 6, 4, some other number that would make it easier for us to go along with, instead of saying it allows 2 and now we want to make it 4 and
Commissioner Kramer, let me respond to that. The concentration numbers are really a numerically driven number. And so, as I recall, you take either all the off-sale licenses, off-premises licenses in the city or the county perhaps, and then determine on a population basis what the average is.
Mm-hmm.
And then for a census tract, it's assigned a certain, number. And it's really a guideline, if you will. So in certain areas, there might be a great deal of restaurants or places that are actually selling alcohol for whatever reason, and they might actually have a lesser population in that immediate region, but a high concentration of commercial properties and so on. And so those areas tend to have an overconcentration. It doesn't mean that legally they're not eligible. They just have, because of the way the calculation is determined, they're put into this category. So this process for a special use permit allows the commission to weigh all factors and then make a determination on the special use permit whether or not the commission's amenable to approving it. But the concentration number is really, like I said, a very mathematically driven number, and it's not it's set by the council, and it's also not dispositive of the decision making of the commission, which has discretion.
Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner Bill?
All right, so let's consider all the factors. This business is under construction right now?
Correct, for the retail market portion. Yeah,
And
the deli.
what exists beyond the retail market portion? Is there something that's already there?
It's an empty shell right now.
Okay.
There was a previous tenant. I think they left, and they're going in.
So with the deli portion, do they already have the license to serve on-site?
The Type 41 ABC license has already been approved by staff per the minor use permit.
And is that something we're going to have to approve as well, or is that
No,
not to us?
That's already been taken care of and
Perfect. So no matter what we do, they can serve on-site on their patio along with food. Now, there's 3 other sites, so one of them is the 7-Eleven in the parking lot, right?
Correct.
Where is the AMPM?
The AMPM is located in the northern part of the city by Sycamore and the 78. That does fall, it's kind of, let me see how to use this.
Oh, so that's the corner of Sycamore and the close to the 78.
Yeah, and that does fall into the same tract as the rest of this area.
Hey, some gerrymandering right there. And then the target is obviously over on a little bit east in the same district?
Right, it's in the, right above this property in this vicinity right here.
And then in my mind, there's a difference between the 7-Eleven and this location. If you look at item number 12 on the list of the special use permit on what they're agreeing to, is there's no exterior advertising or sign type of any kind related to alcohol promotion, including even an in-store display you can see from the outside. So that just tells me that the intent is to tie this in with the deli business and not the same intent that a 7-Eleven would have for carrying out larger quantities of.
I believe the primary business, if the applicant wants to answer the questions as well, is the market portion, the organic produce market. The deli is a side portion of that, and the alcohol sales is a even cider portion of that for the sales of off-sale ABC.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So when we get there, I'd love to hear from the applicant as to what, once we get there, and tell us, about that aspect. But that's my perspective as far as the grouping and everything. It seems like those are factors that would lean toward me saying this is acceptable. So, thank you.
Commissioner Jackal?
When I first read this and read that this would be number 2, I was all set to say okay. But this is, especially with the 7-Eleven already having that permission. I don't know, maybe the applicant can change my mind, but I'm not feeling good about this now.
Okay. Most of the rest of the uses in this census tract are either industrial or business. This is basically the only commercial corner of the business plan. Is that right?
Right. So south of Sycamore is essentially the Vista Business Park. Area is B, which is mostly for industrial commercial uses in terms of manufacturing and production. It's a very low crime rate area. Not many residential areas in the immediate vicinity of that shopping center.
In the past, when we have said no to one of these uses, or this use in particular location, I'm thinking of the 7-Eleven on South Santa Fe and Civic Center. And we had another problem with day laborers who were hanging around the shopping center, and we were concerned about the off-site consumption, and we said no. I don't see this happening here. This is pretty upscale, and they've got an organic market that's coming in. I can see beer and wine being part of that market. So, Commissioner Looney.
If you could just clarify for me, how does city policy work, for example, on the breweries downtown? Because you've got several businesses within a mile that sell and serve alcoholic beverages. Is that because it's in a different zone, it comes under a different policy. Could you kind of educate me on that?
Yeah, so the Downtown Vista specific plan, which is I think what you're referring to for the Broadway, Main Street areas, does allow for beer manufacturers, High 41 types of uses for alcohol consumption. That's a different tract from this one that has its own statistics, crime rate, track number, that the ABC might have different allowances for.
I'm going to add to that.
Sure.
Okay. So the license types that come to you through special use permit are primarily for off-site sale. Almost all the other license types are for on-site sale, restaurant, a brewery that has a tasting room, are all approved at the staff level through an administrative process where we have standard conditions that we give them that primarily match what are going before the commission tonight. But those applications for on-site consumption, whether it be with food or through a brewery use that has on-site manufacturing, are all done at the staff level. The only ones that make it to the Planning Commission are those that are appealed or for off-site sale where they're asking for type 20 or type 21 to go off the premises to consume.
Okay.
So that's the difference.
So it's a different type of license under ABC. Okay. I don't have any speaker slips on this item. So is the applicant here and want to answer questions? Or please come up, give me your name and address, and when you're done, fill out a speaker slip for Mrs. Turley.
Okay, I wasn't sure how that works, so sorry about
Okay.
that. My name is Vince Squirlo.
Close to the mic.
Vince Squirlo. The address is 3225 Business Park Drive, the Carlsbad Ranch Market. We have an existing location in Carlsbad. I've owned it for 30 years, second generation. Finally branching out, taking a chance to open up a second one. We do have our on-site beer and wine. For the first time, we don't have that in Carlsbad. We do have an off-site in Carlsbad. And the main reason for that is we have a full kitchen in this location, and we're going to really, one of the fastest market or segments in the market now is pre-made food. You know, good quality, ready to take it home either hot or pop in your oven, finish it off. So we're thinking we definitely would love to have, you know, beer and wine for off-site sale. Someone can grab a bottle of wine, take home with the dinner we just made for them. We don't have large displays. It's not my main thing. It might be 10% of my sales. It is nice to have because it doesn't have a shelf. It has a long, long shelf life compared to everything else I sell, and the profit margin's pretty decent. So it is really nice to have. But it is a convenience for the customers. We carry a lot of like biodynamic wine, hydrodynamic wine, which is where they don't use any electricity or machinery to make their wine. It's like going 100 years back. So it's not something that 7-Eleven would have. The beer I sell, I don't have Coors Light or Budweiser. I don't have room for that. We stick with a lot of local breweries, sell only 6-packs, no singles. So it's a convenience from the customer's point of view. From my point of view, I'd love to have it because it is another item I can sell, you know, to make money, and it's a nice item because the shelf life is so long. Everything else, produce is 2 to 3 days. Groceries are, you know, they're more, but it is a nice department.
Okay, very good. Any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Kramer?
So at your Carlsbad facility, you already have the off-site sale,
Correct.
and you've had no issues, and everybody, you know what you need to do to train everybody, and
Yes. Yeah, no issues, yes.
over 30 years.
Yeah. I grew up in the business with my father, and I always swore I would never do it, but here I am, and actually I do enjoy it.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Carroll?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm in favor of this project. I think it will be an addition to the area, a good addition. And I'm going to make a motion to recommend approval of P17-0418 special use permit as written.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Commissioner Kramer?
I will second it.
Okay, any discussion on the motion?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison?
I just want to say I came in to oppose this because of the too many in this area. But I think the applicant, in terms of how he's going to use it and what it means to his business, has convinced me that this would be an asset to the community.
Very good. Commissioner Looney?
Along the same lines as Commissioner Garrison, you've got a different clientele than 7-Eleven or AM PM. And I think it is appropriate for the type of business that he's trying to establish in Vista. Simply because of the format, I think it works. And I think it would be inappropriate not to move forward with it. That's what I've got.
Commissioner Jackal?
Yep, I agree. The applicant changed my mind.
All right, so then can we call for the question and cast your vote, please? And the motion passes unanimously. Congratulations and best wishes. So that brings us to Mr. Connolly's report to us on what's going on in the community.
So we will not be having a meeting on April 17th. You guys will get a little break here. We have quite a few projects queued up in looks like May and June, so we'll probably have a couple meetings in May, but you have a few weeks to relax and enjoy the month. Couple construction-related items. There is construction happening at the Delpy Corner project. I'm sure you've all seen a lot of dirt moving around. They're well underway with their grading. They do have a cultural resource site on that property that they did find some material in, so they have ceased grading in a portion of the property, and they're evaluating that site, so I'll report back when we have a full report from the archaeologist on that.
Super.
We'll allow grading elsewhere on the property, though, so you probably won't see any construction stop. At 100 Main Street, across the street from Mother Earth, they are going to start construction. I believe they have a kickoff on Monday. They got their grading permit in hand, so we should be seeing activity out there in the next couple weeks as well. Honda's underway, as you know. They're doing their demo. The Raising Cane's across the street is going up. They're getting close. I think they're planning to open in June. And as far as construction projects, I think that's about it, unless there's any questions.
BlackRock has had their fence up and signs for several months.
Do you know anything about that, Patsy? I know. My kids ask me every time we go by. They've done the demo, but they have not started any construction.
Okay.
So, although they did process a building permit, so they're ready to go.
Okay.
Doghouse?
They're under construction right now. Mr. Ham is gone. I think he indicated they were hoping to open either in late May or early June.
So instead of last summer, this summer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
Question.
Commissioner Garrett, okay, that was Commissioner Kramer and Commissioner Garrison.
We'll get this straight. Never mind. Never mind.
Any other comments, questions for staff? All right. If not, we will stand adjourned until May 1st.